works. Can you see that so far?
Yes, I can see that. Good to go.
You know, let me go ahead and bring this on up. And, before I really get going here, Marlene, there's a lot of things that have been going on, over the last number of years that have brought me to this point. And I asked a little bit earlier if anybody that is with us tonight watching this, if you're seeing this for your first time, or maybe you've just seen it a few times and just wanted to really look a little bit deeper. And for me, I just appreciate that. I had somebody trying to tell me about this, years ago in the beginning stages of this unique technology I'm going to step in here to tonight. But, what brought me to the table was because of my wife. And my wife, Judy, is a serious diabetic. At the time, she'd already been through 2 kidney transplants and couldn't feel her feet and had problems with her eyesight. And, they were talking about, amputation and possible blindness in the future. And, anybody that knows the complications of diabetes is just one thing after another. And her incredible doctors were doing everything they could. And, I thank God for what they were doing, but, she wasn't really getting better. And they suggested that we look into, of course, good nutrition and things like that. I don't know that they really knew what to tell us to do, but it was a good suggestion. We began to look at some nutritional supplements and things because, eating more and eating healthier, well, you can just do so much. And I knew that. And on our budget, it just wasn't, very much of an option to, go overboard and things like that with good nutrition. So, we started looking, and a lot of the supplements we found, we just were told and probably pretty much advised by the doctor that she shouldn't take them because of her immunosuppressant medications and things. And well, let me just speed up here. A guy came in where I was working, and I was, punching that time clock, working 12 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. And he said he'd run across something that he thought would help my wife. And, I knew this guy as a, very respectful person. I respected him. He ran a medical software company and was involved in infusion medicine, and, he had a nice truck too. So, I was involved in, as a mechanic. And so, I just kind of jumped right in and said, well, what is it? And he invited us out to share a little bit more with us. And I got to tell you something, the more he said about this, the less I believed. But for a few months, he had my attention. Something had my curiosity up, and I kept digging into this and looking a little bit deeper into the technology and things that he was talking about. And finally, after a few months, and I was just arguing about it for the most part, he said, Jeff, look, this is not some product that's going to help your wife. This is a discovery in how the human body functions. We now know how to support it. And I was like, wow, and it caught my attention. So, I actually ended up in Dallas in October of '98 in a closed door session for medical professionals only, which was a challenge for me, but that's another story. But, that's where I began. And I had the honor to listen to a gentleman talk about this technology called Ace Mannon. I'll get into more of it here tonight. And, from there on, it just changed my life. I walked out of that room and I said to myself, I'm going to take this to the world. And I began to study this and look at this, really not so I could prepare myself to present it, but more to, was it true? Was this for real? And I tell you, the deeper I dug, the more powerful it got. So, here we are today with a company called Alovea. And so when I go through some of this, I'm going to go through some of it kind of quick because we will be recording this and it's up for a replay. And you can find this at, hopemovementreplays.info. And the other replays of, other calls and conferences we've done are up there to some degree. But the point being is, some of this is stuff we've heard a long time ago, and it's been going on for a long time. So I don't want to bore you with a lot of things that you already know. But, when we talk about Alovea, first of all, Alovea, if I can get this thing to work here, Alovea is a name, but it's comprised of 2 words, aloe vera, which is a plant that has been used for thousands of years in wellness and things of that nature. Everybody knows about aloe vera. And then the word vea, which is really basically means to be unique or to be different, to follow, by everyone who loves something different, kind of a different path, if you will. So when I talk about we do health different, that's really where I'm going tonight. And we'll show you how we do that. And it's just not some idea we've concocted, but a very fundamental, what I call a common sense approach to optimal health. The mission with Alovea is to impact childhood malnutrition. Every year there's over 6 million children die around the world from malnutrition, not starvation. Years ago, there was a big drive to help feed some of these children that were literally starving to death. And while we've overcome the starvation side, the meal and the food and things that they were given really had no good nutrition. And so we saw children that were continually getting sicker and sicker, you know, and dying of things such as viruses and bacteria and things that normally people recover from, but their immune systems were so depressed and dysfunctional that they couldn't. And so when we look at this platform of Alovea, a social business platform, and our whole idea is to impact the children with malnutrition. It is a one-for-one movement, similar to Tom's Shoes. Every time you purchase a pair of shoes from Tom's Shoes, you know, Blake Mikowski saw that in impoverished countries, children couldn't go to school if they didn't have shoes. And a lot of kids don't necessarily care for the shoes, but you know, when it comes to wanting to play outside, but if they want to get an education, they've got to have shoes. And his mission was to put shoes on their feet to help them get an education and better their life. You know, Warby Parker, Bombas Socks, those are another examples of companies that have taken on a cause, you know, to impact something very important. And so when we look at the Hope Movement powered by Alovea, you know, a for-profit entity, a social business platform, the first of its kind that is comprised of two nonprofit 501c3 movements worldwide. One, Manna Relief Ministries, which began over 25 years ago, impacting the lives of children in orphanages, literally in over 80 countries, over 90 some orphanages, combined with another ministry or an organization called Nations Changers, which is really, you know, involved in impacting nations all around the world and has been for years. So coming together, we have formed what is called a public benefits corporation. That's exactly what Alovea is. The first of its kind public benefits corporation, a social business platform designed to impact childhood malnutrition. So let me just move on here. You know, when we talk about health, I'm not going to, again, bore you with all the details, but it's been in the news and has been for over 25 or 30 years how, you know, it's just been progressively getting worse. We talk about pandemic. We are almost at epidemic stages across the board, you know, from cancers and diabetes, arthritic, autoimmune, you name it. It's literally on the rise. And we have almost 200 autoimmune disorders today. And 20 years ago, we had around 80. Think about that a minute. You know, we see it in our children. I mean, it's getting younger and younger that we're seeing these problems that used to be in adults at older ages that are showing up in our children today. You know, over 6 million children are given a Ritalin or a similar drug that is a class 2 narcotic similar to cocaine and morphine. You know, the kids, they're really not drug deficient, they're nutrient deficient. And we've seen, you know, some of these children and the impact that's been made in their lives, you know, by the impact of high grade, you know, quality nutrition, not some of this synthetic cheap stuff that you find out here a lot of times on the shelf, because good nutrition isn't found on the shelf. It's too, it just doesn't compete on the shelf, let me put it that way. So when you look at the rest of the things we deal with, you know, the toxins and the chemicals, I mean, they're everywhere. You know, there's over 80,000 new toxins into the environment today that didn't even exist on the planet before 1950. And I'll tell you, they're in the air, they're in the food, they're in the water, and some of them you can't even get out. You know, USA Today a few years ago published an article about the amount of xenoestrogens in the water table that were found in the Colorado River and also Lake Mead, a watering source for a multi-state region. And the xenoestrogens in the estrogen levels and things from birth control pills and other types of drugs that were getting into the water were so elevated that the male fish were actually beginning to lay eggs. Now think about that a minute. Something that is so impacting our environment at that level, you know, what do you think it's doing to all of us? We look at the amount of depletion in the soil today. You know, over 70% of our farmland, for the most part in the U.S., is depleted, where we actually have to put synthetic nutrients back in it to grow things. You know, and if you're just hearing this for the first time, I mean, it's not new. Again, this has been progressively getting worse. We're almost like the frog sitting in the cold water on the stove, and the heat has been turned up, and we're literally starting to boil alive here because it's literally right under our nose, the foods and things that we're putting in us. Look what it's done to our fruits and vegetables. They tell you it takes over 100 bowls of spinach today to give you what one did in 1950. I mean, that just scares me. You know, over 50 some pizzas to give you what a couple of them used to give you back in the beginning of the 60s. You know, so we just can't eat enough. And again, most kids, I used to jokingly say kids basically ate 4 vegetables a day: French fries, French fries, French fries, and ketchup. And so I got to tell you, it's just, we cannot eat enough to get, you know, the things that our bodies truly need here. So, You know, when we look at the GMO, genetically modified, you know, I got to tell you something. I know what you're thinking. Well, I just get the organic stuff. I don't buy that. Really? You know, newsflash, over 90% of our corn and soybean and cotton grown in the U.S. is genetically engineered from modified seeds. So even if it's not, you know, put on during the growing stages, it is classified organic, but it's actually in the seed before the plant starts growing. And that, and again, is completely scary to me. And you look at what it's doing in the body, when the body is designed to have real food. You know, I just look at just keep going here. The viruses, the microbes and the bacteria and all that kind of stuff. Look, we've just been through for about the last 90 days, you know, and I'll tell you, it's just getting worse. And they told us this 20 years ago with the antibiotic resistant infections and the beginning stages of the COVID virus that we see today that has evolved to where it's at today. I'll tell you again, it's not new. It's just getting worse every single day. And, you know, I want to just stop a second and ask you, do you think it's going to be getting better anytime real soon? That's what I'm saying here. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing this with people, and hopefully people driving other people to hear this message, because, you know, it's time to really wake up. You know, in my book, in 3 John, it says that it's the will of our Father in heaven that we be in health even as our soul prospers. But it goes on in verse 4 and says that we should embrace the truth. And that's what I'm sharing with you tonight, the truth that's going on out here in health and the things that we see today. And, you know, in verse 8, it says that we should become fellow helpers of this truth. That's what we're doing as a movement with Alovea and the Hope Movement. We are fellow helpers of this, trying to drive people to hear this message so they can begin to partake and see the benefits that really have been brought to them all along. So, you know, let me carry on here. You know, when we look at all this stuff I've just shown you, you know, we're seeing a decrease in immune function. Over the last 40 years now, you know, we've literally lost about 30% of immune function, and we're decreasing at the rate of around 3 to 5% per year. And today, immunodeficiency has become the #1 cause of disease, disability, and death in the world. So once your immune system is so compromised, you know, you lose your body's ability to defend itself and protect itself and restore and all those things that it does to heal itself. You know, we're literally getting sicker, easier, we're slower to recover. And I'll tell you, you know, it's not the old 24 to 48 hour bug that it used to be. It's the 10-day to 2-week bug that is killing some people. And so we just got to think about that a minute. Look at the leading causes of death today. You know, heart disease and cancer, there are over 600,000 people. I say each because they're running neck and neck almost for #1. Pulmonary disorders, strokes, and Alzheimer's. You know, over 100,000 people every year die from those types of disorders. And a lot of them are related straight back to the diet, just like diabetes. You know, over 80,000 people deal with that, and it's on the rise today, being seen in children. Adult onset diabetes in children as young as 6 and 8 today. Influenza, pneumonia, 51,000 plus. Well, look what just happened. I mean, it's on the rise too. It's literally probably closer to the 100,000 mark with what we've seen with this particular problem we've just been through here. So I can tell you, it's not getting any better, and we've got to wake up to this. We've got to do what we can to get our friends and families and people we love and care about to wake up to this, because it is the truth. You know, when you look at the hope and the trust that we have in our medical system, I can promise you, every doctor that was taking care of my wife, Judy, was the very best. And I just could not thank them enough for what they were doing. But, you know, overall, we're just not getting better. In fact, you know, as they say, we're dying for a cure. You know, we almost feel like guinea pigs with the next pharmaceutical drug to see what it's going to do. And, you know, even doctors are afraid of prescribing some of this stuff, especially when their patients are coming in asking for things that they still don't know anything about. But it's being advertised on television day in, day out. So I tell you, it's what they call a debacle, a ruinous collapse of an entire system. And that's what I believe today, because even the doctors are saying we've got to do something better. And so when you look at the annual death tolls from just the medical mistakes and the other problems within the system, you know, there's over 100,000 people a year that die taking properly prescribed pharmaceutical medications that does not include overdoses, interactions, or misprescribed drugs. You did exactly what you were told. And you know what? You died from it. And we see that today, and not to mention the other problems associated with those and the side effects and all. You know, there's over 80,000, you know, deaths from infections in the hospital that people didn't have till they got there. Other errors and then unnecessary surgeries, medical errors in addition, and all that stuff. You know, that adds up to around, well, let me put it this way. That's over 200,000 alone. And when you add even the outpatient of similar reasons, now you're knocking at the door of close to 425,000 people every single year that die literally going for help. And I don't mean to be blunt, but that's the facts. And as reported by the Journal of the American Medical Association, July 26th of 2000, volume 284, excuse me. But that is what they put in writing about the system and what they were facing. And so, again, you think it's gotten any better? And I promise you, there's been a lot of action taken to improve a lot of these areas. And I got to say, in a lot of them, they have made some incredible improvements. But every year, some of them are really getting worse. But when you put all that together, that's literally the third leading cause of death today. So when you look at health, don't be fooled. Don't be thinking, hey, I'm healthy because everything feels good, or I'm just getting a little older and that's normal, and things like that. Because, we're just literally fooled into thinking we're healthy until all of a sudden we've got a problem. The traditional model just says wait until something's wrong. All of a sudden you got a symptom. Something's not feeling right, or you're not sleeping right, or something's feeling different. And so you go to the doctor and he says, look, let me sit down and talk to you a minute. And they found some other things that are even more serious. What you found is that you just found the tip of your iceberg, and now you're fighting for your life in some cases. So we can't just wait until we think we've got a problem and go talk to a doctor and expect that to be fixed. We've got to take a proactive attempt, to good health care today. And so when we look at that, it really takes some of the burden off of our incredible professionals so they can focus on those severe situations that without them, we won't have any hope. And so we all need to work together here, but this is our job, not their job. And our job is to take care of our body on a daily basis. When you look at ancient wisdom, what did Paracelsus, the father of pharmacology, say? Everything man needs to sustain good health is provided by God in nature. It's the job of science to find that. Even, Hippocrates said, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. So this isn't, again, new. In fact, when it comes to health, this wisdom is, ages and hundreds of years old. So when we look at good health, it all starts at the cell level, and because a healthy cell makes healthy tissue, which makes healthy organs, which if we're synergistic together, and you have healthy systems, then for the most part, your body's pretty much healthy. But again, life begins and it ends at the cell level. So when you think about this plant called aloe vera, and then let's just step forward here a minute, because that's the first part of our name. When we look at aloe and aloe vera, it's literally the cornerstone of ancient medicine in every culture throughout the world. It's mentioned multiple times in the Bible. It's even back in the times of Alexander the Great, because of its healing capabilities. And so science in the late 70s, there was a lot of claims being made about aloe vera. So a group of, researchers working at a pharmaceutical lab were commissioned by a group of investors to actually discover and look at that plant and find out what was it that was actually the activating component, the therapeutic agent, if you will. And in 1985, they identified a molecule called ace-mannan. And they began in the beginning of the 80s, and after several years and millions of dollars, they identified what was similar to a pearl necklace of what was called sugars or saccharides or glycans or carbohydrates, if you will. And so now don't shut this off. I know I'm talking about a sugar, but they're not that kind of sugar, not like we sweeten our drinks with, and they're the kind of sugar that we talk about that is bad for us. These are very unique sugars, and I'm going to kind of expand on this just a little bit. But in this pearl necklace, they found that there was these little bitty molecules, the short chains, and they had the little bit bigger molecules known as medium chains, and they had these great big fractions known as the long chains. But ace-mannan is basically a abbreviated name, which means a highly dispersed beta-1,4 linked acetylated polymannan. And mannose, which is the main sugar in this polysaccharide chain that comprises over almost all of it, is a very unique ingredient, and I'll touch more on that as we go forward here. But that was the great discovery that was in aloe vera. And Dr. Santiago Rodriguez, one of those researchers, was able to identify that along with Dr. Bill McAnally. But Dr. Rodriguez was able to take that and perfect a way to stabilize it where it could be administered at a later date. Because we know that aloe vera is only good when you first pick it. So there was something in that plant that basically killed off that active component, and that was only good live. But Dr. Rodriguez found a way to stabilize that so it could be reactivated, at a later time. And that was the big discovery. Research has looked at this, and is today looking at this as the most researched molecule in nature. It has shown that ace-mannan provides three major mechanisms of immune support: the structure and function of all cells, the macrophage activation, and also improved gut health. And each of these areas was directly related to the size of those particular fractions, the short, the medium, and the long chain. So when we look at this, we know that those little bitty chains, those short chains, were used to build certain structures that allowed the body to communicate. We call that the sweet language of life. So like this cutaway is showing here, nourish me and repair me and destroy me. It's communicating its needs with this immune system. And it's, these short chains of mannose are pumped directly into the blood, and they're presented for every single cell to build these structures. So that's similar to what those short chains do. Let me give you a better example. The English language is made up of 4 raw materials: a long line, a short line, a big curve, and a small curve. And those 4 raw materials make up 26 letters that allow us to formulate words and create sentences so you and I can communicate. But the body uses these 8 particular saccharides or carbohydrates to build these unique structures called glycoproteins. Glyco being Greek or sweet, attached to carbohydrate or proteins on the surface of every single cell. So when you think about that, this radio signal antennas and things on the surface of our cells, how our body, communicates the needs. So in this cutaway, you see that this cell is missing, in this communication chain, one of these raw materials, and it's trying to communicate its needs, but it's not able to communicate correctly. So if you put that short line back in this equation, you go from a level of miscommunication to a level of enhanced communication. And so when you look at that, look at this: cleanse me and see me and restore me and regulate and feed me and defend me. Now this cell can literally communicate its needs. And that right there is seen as one of the greatest discoveries in modern science at how the body facilitates action at a cell level. When we look at these particular sugars, American Association for the Advancement of Science on March 23rd, 2001, volume 291, talked about missing sugars spell disaster in articles such as Saving Lives with Sugar. And it says that when cells turn against the body, as in degenerative and autoimmune types of dysfunctions, research has shown that sugars are missing from these glycoprotein structures. Literally, the body is not communicating and takes action to damage it or kill it, when it's probably a good, healthy cell. So that's what we're finding out here about cellular communication. And by the way, to date, there's been over 7 Nobel Prizes in medicine and physiology for even alluding to what I'm talking about here. The first beginning in October of 1999. So, when we look at these medium chains, we know that those are pumped directly, into the blood and go directly, through the liver to begin to get into the blood to activate the large, white blood cells known as macrophage. Macrophage is a Greek word, means big eater. But macrophages are like the night watchman, and they're always going through the body, checking cells out to make sure they're healthy. And, and when their needs, when they have needs, they'll communicate those and orchestrate repair and the other things that are necessary. But in addition, it also is able to recognize if other things are beginning to get into the body, and pathogens and viruses and bacteria. So like this cutaway here, you see this big immune cell here, and it's communicating with this cell. But what it's going to discover is that there's a bacteria or a virus or a toxin or something that is attached to that cell. And it's going to, see that, it's going to find that, it's going to begin to take action to kill off that bacteria, that virus, or whatever it may be that is beginning to damage that cell. And that's exactly how your immune system takes action against, pathogens and virus and toxins and bacteria and all kinds of things that get in to invade the body on a daily basis. So, and that's how important, just activating the macrophage and making sure that they're, keeping watch on every single cell throughout your body. From there, we look at, cells that regenerate and they don't regenerate correctly. Maybe they've been damaged and for whatever reason, and they've gotten out of control. Like this abnormal cancer cell right here in the bottom left is circled. And you can tell that it doesn't have these little hair-like structures, these communicative antennas where the body can communicate well. So when the macrophages see that, it's designed to take action. A lot of the phagocytes and the dendritic cells of the immune system will come in, they'll surround that, encapsulate that, and they'll start to produce certain factors that begin to kill off those bad cells. The thing about that is we don't feel that happening, and we don't feel it not happening. But the body's going after these bad, misregenerated cells almost by the second. So it's extremely critical that your body is working, properly at the cell level, and the macrophages are doing their job. From there, we look at those large chains, and they're actually left in the intestinal tract. They're converted to short chain fatty acids, and they feed good, healthy bacteria, and they help grow the healthy epithelial cells that line the gut, as well as support overall, colonic health. And the doctors will tell you, disease starts in the colon. And so when you think about that, the role of this ACE man and the different areas that it supports in the human body is just the basic fundamentals of life. In fact, the science behind this and everything that has happened has been compiled into a meta-analysis of over 100 peer-reviewed published studies on ACE mannan, talking about the history of Alovea, mechanisms of action, the integrative health support that it provides, not only the safety and efficacy of this unique model. But what's really neat is, with all of this activity, it doesn't do any damage to anything else in the body. There are no side effects with this at all, because it is compatible with human physiology. So when you think about that, when I say compatible, mannose is found in 2 places on the earth at this level. One of them, of course, is the aloe vera plant, but the other one is in mama's breast milk. In fact, science now knows that when a mother gets pregnant, during that gestational period, the body starts to produce high levels of mannose that are pumped through the umbilical cord for the expression of all genetic activity during the term of that baby being born in the womb. And from the date of birth, it's reversed through the mammary glands and comes out through mother's breast milk. This particular ingredient, mannose, is seen as the key factor that cannot be duplicated into formulas. And we know the value of mother's breast milk. And, I just find that fascinating. And, that if God was going to put the perfect food for a baby, what would he put and where would he put it? And, science also knows that when a woman becomes pregnant, a lot of times, if she's dealing with some type of an autoimmune or immune-related issue, a lot of times we'll go into remission during this term of pregnancy. So, think about that a minute. The body is an incredible machine. And if you just support its ability to function the way God designed it. When you think about the studies, beginning in about the 90s, in the late 80s, actually, it began to explode. Through the late 80s into the 90s, there was more research done on this particular discovery than there was done on even AIDS during the decade of the 80s. It was just exploded into research. To date, as of 2012, is now published in the Library of Congress, National Academies Press, entitled Glycoscience, A Roadmap to the Future, seen as the final frontier in medicine. And in 2001, MIT, in Technology Review, stated that one of the top 10 technologies that would change the world that we live in was glycomics, the study of these interactive sugars in the body. So I'll tell you something, again, this isn't new, but it's just now beginning to come to the surface. And if you're just hearing about this, well, consider yourself lucky. The people that have found out about this and have begun to embrace it, let me tell you something, they feel like, well, let me tell you something, when hope shows up, you'll know it. But the reality is the hope is within you. The miracle is inside your body. Your body is designed to keep you healthy. It is your temple that God gave you. It's designed to be taken care of every single day. Every single day you need good sleep. Every single day you need exercise. Every single day, 2 or 3 or 4 times possible, you need to feed your body. You need good filtered water every single day. And so the body is designed in a way to where it's even prompts you when it's hungry and thirsty and those kinds of things, because your body is designed to take in these nutrients. If you're deficient, you'll be eating constantly trying to fulfill that need that the body is looking for. So, but the miracle is within inside your body. It's designed to do all these things if you give it what it was designed to have. The body regenerates itself at the cell level. Every single second. Blood cells are regenerating at about 8 million a second. Bone cells, 12 to 14 days. 12 to 14 months. But, over the course of about 365 days, your body completely rebuilds itself at a cell level. And how well it does that and how well protected your cells are and how they communicate is how your body determines how well it ages. And so when we talk about anti-aging, it all starts again at the cell level. So when you look at the automobile, it's a machine also. It's made of glass, plastic, steel, and rubber, but it needs, parts. It needs products, if you will. It needs oil and air and water and gas and brake fluid. And these are the things that you just keep at a certain level, constantly in that vehicle so that it gets you where you want to go and hopefully safely. But, the human body is not much different. It's a electrostatically charged, biologically active machine. and it needs parts and things on a regular basis. It needs the essential vitamins, minerals, and trace elements so it can rebuild good, healthy cells. It needs the essential proteins and amino acids. It needs the essential fats and oils. And also we now know about these necessary sugars that are critical, for the body to function at a cell level. And you tie all that together, plus good filtered water, and as we say, don't forget to breathe. So when we say what is the most important nutrient, it's technically the one that's missing. And I've seen people start on some incredible products, and maybe we're not drinking enough water, and they were slow to get the benefits they were looking for. Or in some cases, we're drinking a lot of water and they were deficient in another area. It doesn't matter. Your body needs those essentials every single day on a regular basis. As the New England Journal of Medicine says, August 3rd of 2000, volume 343, during every regeneration of every single new cell, glycoprotein structures must be rebuilt with every new generation. Well, that includes good calcium for your bones and potassium, magnesium for your heart, and all these other parts the body needs to continually rebuild these healthy cells. And if you've got cells regenerating by the second, again, you're designed to have them daily. So when we look at that and we look at these products here, they're not designed to treat, cure, or mitigate any type of disease. We're not here to take the place of a doctor's care and advice or anything like that. This is called an integrated health approach. This is the things that you do on a daily, regular basis, along with good filtered water and exercise, in addition to whatever you may be doing with your doctor. And we always recommend you, counsel with a doctor if you're dealing with a health challenge. But it all starts with ace-mannan, nature's most powerful molecule. Alovea AE, which stands for ace-mannan extract, is that state-of-the-art aloe vera interleaf gel powder containing the most immune-activating fractions of pure ace-mannan. And I'll tell you something, it's in every single product that we have with Alovea, because it is a synergistic molecule. When it goes on board with any other ingredients, it actually enhances the effect of that particular ingredient. So it helps across the board with virtually everything. So when we look at our product called Immune, it is that pure ace-mannan. We now know that it actually enhances macrophage activity as much as tenfold. It actually increases stem cell production in your bone marrow as much as 300 to 400%. And there's a lot of science behind that. If you really investigate that, that'll overwhelm you. It supports antiviral and antifungal and antibacterial defenses, not to mention, balances a sluggish or even overactive immune system, because it doesn't boost or stimulate or anything like that. It doesn't suppress. It allows the body to modulate whatever it's designed to do. If it needs to go up, it does. If it needs to come down, it does. It's about the body doing what it's designed to do, not this stimulating or blocking or anything like that. So again, we also know that it speeds wound healing as much as 35%. Well, who didn't know that about aloe vera? It aids in absorption of nutrients and water in the GI tract, supports a healthy gut and vascular flow, and also good cognitive function. I can tell you, taking ace-mannan, over time, you begin to really connect the dots, and you just think clear. It's just like the fog lifted, years ago when I began to take this. As I stepped into this value of this level of immune, I can promise you everything changed. Not only was it a lot less expensive than what we were spending in the past, but our results were compounded over 5 times more effective than we ever saw. So when we look at these other products, we have an ingredient called Entourage, a broad spectrum organic form of hemp oil. We're not going to expand on that a lot here tonight, but this nano-sized hemp oil is actually compatible to the point where it actually bonds to the hydrogen in the water in your blood and transfers right over into the blood. It actually improves memory and mood and sleep, brain function, joint health, and just overall well-being. And we know that it's actually tested to be and ensured to be 0.00 THC, because even a trace amount that will show up in a drug test sooner or later, we have a lot of medical professionals and truck drivers and military that actually use our products. And so it's critical that they make sure that this product has 0 THC in it. And so our unique formula is not only patent pending, but is actually in this hydrophilic format. We're able to combine it with this water-based technology called ace-mannan, creating a very standalone product that even other companies don't rate against because there's nothing to compare with it. Dr. Renee Hurte with the Dream for the Cure Foundation for Cancer Research, and I'll just read her short quote. Our search for the most scientifically advanced technologies for optimal immune and endocannabinoid system support led us to Alovea. Their unique immune modulating aloe vera ace-mannan technology represents the best science I've found for immune system support. And when combined with highly bioavailable broad spectrum hemp oil, it provides an unprecedented integrative health strategy. And, you know, that's not us saying that, it's her saying that. And Dr. Renee Herte is doing immunotherapy research at the Mayo Clinics and has been for years, and is looking at groundbreaking research to impact, you know, well, many forms of cancer, not just brain cancer. So we just appreciate her stamp of approval because, you know, she's looked at a lot and it brought her straight to us. So thank you, Dr. Renee. You know, when we're talking about a product called Limitless, it supports the defense and regeneration system of the body, a very potent form of an antioxidant discovered in a beet. But, you know, we know the value of beets. In fact, Cornell University found they were more potent than even the dark green leafy vegetables that we thought for a long time were so good. But the reality is they are, but they're not as potent as this flavonoid called a betalain. A betalain is that ingredient that was found in a beet. But the problem with beets is over 70% by volume of beets is sugar. So this particular extract has 0 sugar, a patented formula that was extracted, that each capsule has the equivalence of over 500 of the equivalent of over 500 cooked beets with just the pure betalain per capsule with 0 sugar. And seen as, you know, one of nature's most potent anti-inflammatory types of molecules. It fights fatigue and supports mental alertness and healthy aging, things of that nature, joint comfort and flexibility and overall healthy circulation. It really helps put that elasticity back into your cardiovascular system by reducing that oxidative stress that over time is a normal aging process. So very, very, very impactful product right there. Balance supports the areas of regulation, also known as the endocrine system. You know, balance is not a hormonal additive, but a precursor that allows your body to produce hormones upon demand. A very unique formula seen to impact areas of hormonal imbalances, high blood pressure, blood sugar levels, you know, ongoing inflammation, unexpected types of weight gain, because the endocrine system is all about putting the body back into balance. Too much of a particular hormone and you've got some problems on your hands, and not enough. And, you know, well, to be honest with you, other people might have some problems on their hands because, you know, when you're not able to function correctly hormonally, well, we call it our mad, sad, happy, glad pill. Let me just leave you there. So that again is a very, very important system of the body to deal with. From there, we step into nutrition and digestion. You know, Daily is a whole food compound that is a pure food-based type of formula that is, you know, reinstigated back into a food matrix by fermentation processes. And this particular formula, it also has encapsulated bacteria within the capsule that is released in the gut, along with acid-activated forms of enzymes. So it's truly a whole food compound that supports both areas of also nourishment and digestion. So you need those, you know, live bacteria, you need those enzymes and things for digestion that breaks down the things that we eat into these micronutrient levels that our bodies can use at the cell level. And so, but they've got to come from food. So just reading the label on this product will tell you there's no synthetics, no GMOs, no gluten, you know, gluten-free and all of that. None of the products have any of that. In fact, some of our products can even be classified as vegan friendly. So when we look at other food options that we have to offer, you know, so we offer this in a few other areas, and we call that rebooting. And so, but those are the main key products that we offer. And when we look at those first 5, they cover the areas of communication, activation, defense and regeneration, the areas of regulation, nutrition, and digestion. And that sounds like a mouthful, but in fact, that's just something we're supposed to put in on a daily basis. I guess mouthful was a good way to put that, isn't it? So when we think about that, that's what's supposed to be on that plate that we're eating every single day. And for whatever reason, it's just not there anymore. The last I want to leave you with is what we call the star of the show. It's what we call the Hope Pop. I mean, it defies wisdom when you think about this particular product. Not only does it taste absolutely incredible, but it doesn't feel or taste like one of those sugar-free pops or anything like that, because it's sweetened with xylitol, a very, you know, unique product that's seen as very, you know, cavity-friendly and shown to help prevent tooth decay, but it's also very sweet. It's got 50 milligrams of puree mannan per sucker, which is the equivalent that we give to children in orphanages throughout the world, that literally on a daily basis is changing their lives. So when you look at 50 milligrams per sucker, I mean, that's something you'd want your children to have or grandchildren to be using 2 or 3 times a day, and they'll love them. over 2/3 of your daily recommended allowance of vitamin C, 4 grams of healthy fiber. I mean, they're just, I don't even know that I feel like I'm like an oxymoron to call them a healthy sucker, but that's what they are. And, but you know, you'd never know that just by trying them. And that's why we call that our star of the show. A lot of people are just giving out a hope pop saying, you ought to try these and look at what's going on with them. And a little more information begins to lead people down this road to hear a little bit more about what we're doing. And I just want to leave you with this here tonight. Every single product that we offer here serves a child one for one. You know, as Mother Teresa said, if you can't serve 100, at least serve one. You know, 1 or 2 or even more of these products are something that you need on a daily basis. And we know that where Ace Manning is concerned, it's the what we call the real hero here. And so if it's something you've not really tried before, I know that's something that will make the biggest difference when you begin. And from there, everything else is just supporting these other areas, these other systems of the body. Just like the body or the car needs that oil, air, water, gas, and brake fluid, it also needs a driver, somebody that's able to control and to allow it to function and all those things that makes it run correctly. And that's how we're looking at the human body, supporting communication, its ability to activate, its ability to regenerate correctly, its ability to regulate properly and keep itself in balance, its ability to rebuild healthy cells with good nutrition and also rid itself of the waste on a daily basis. So again, like I said in the beginning, it's just a common sense approach to optimal health. So I appreciate all of you for just taking a few minutes to look into this here tonight. I'm going to break my screen down here and stop that for the evening. But Marlene, I'll just turn this.
My skin got healthier. And a couple of weeks ago, I was out in my backyard for 7 hours and I got a very, very light burn. Before I started using this, that would have caused me to blister. And I didn't feel or anything afterwards. Yeah, get out there, get your sun, and get the immune in you, and let your skin get better.
True. Get your body working, and it does the work for you. So, vaya con Dios, everybody.
Vaya con Dios. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.